Doing nothing is really, really hard. For a long time, I thought that this trait was unique to me, but I'm discovering that loads of people are just the same. If something goes wrong, I want to fix it by doing something. If the only way to fix it is to do nothing, well, it leaves me in a state of perpetual anxiety as my stupid monkey brain screams at me to take action now. It's one of the reasons why I hate losing weight, for instance. Eating less is faster and more effective than exercising, but I don't want the solution to just be sitting here being hungry. If only there was something I could eat that would help me lose weight and fix my back problems, like a cake of some sort, maybe a pie. But no, alas, not doing something is the best solution. And it's the same for our current pandemic. This is maybe the reason why people ran out and bought a bunch of toilet paper, because they were scared and they wanted to fix things somehow. This is what they came up with. Unless you're a doctor or other medical personnel, the best thing you can do right now for yourself, your loved ones, and for society as a whole is to just stay home. Don't go out shopping for non-essentials. Don't run to Safeway and buy all the Cadbury cream eggs, no matter how much you want them. Don't go to parties. Don't go to bars. Don't invite a friend over to catch up. Just sit there, read a book, play a video game, whatever. Do nothing. But that's not what we see in our media when disaster strikes. We see someone who takes action, who does something when all around them people are doing nothing. Our games and books and movies and TV shows model what a hero looks like. And let's face it, seeing someone sitting quietly in their living room putting together a jigsaw puzzle isn't the most engrossing narrative. So it makes sense, and it's pretty encouraging that when someone came up with the idea to 3D print some of the things doctors are missing, like ventilator parts, people leapt at the chance to help. That's human nature, and it's the best of human nature. There are, though, a couple of things related to this that I need you to be skeptical about. So despite the warm, fuzzy feelings, I'm going to talk about a few of those. I promise I won't ruin too much. First of all, original reporting about the 3D printed ventilators stated that Italian makers had 3D printed a ventilator part for pennies that would have cost $10,000. And the reporting further stated that the makers were being threatened by patent lawsuits from the company that made the ventilator. I'm not sure how any of that got past an editor because medical shit is overpriced here in the US, but there's no way that a single piece of a ventilator would run 10 grand in Italy. Sure enough, that part was completely untrue, as was the part about the company threatening to sue the makers. The company didn't give them the files they wanted, so the makers had to reverse engineer the part, which is stupid and fucked up, but the company did not threaten to sue them. A company did threaten to sue the makers of COVID-19 tests in a time when we desperately need as many tests as possible, using patents they got from the failed bullshit startup Theranos, of all things. Read up on that if all this pandemic news isn't already making you give up all hope for humanity. Anyway, the good news is that we now have efforts like Project Open Air, which is a group of people who are trying to make an entire open source ventilator, which is awesome. There are also people printing other parts that medical professionals need. So if you have a 3D printer and you want to help, check out the Google Doc I'm going to be linking in the transcript, which you can find on Patreon or Skepchick. Links are below. You can sign up so that hospitals in your area know that you're available to print them parts. I know what you may be thinking at this point. What about N95 face masks? In my previous video, I talked about how many medical professionals are working without protective equipment, not necessarily because of citizens hoarding them, but because of a complete lack of preparedness on the part of our government and our hospitals. So why not print some of those? Even the president of Mass General put out a plea for 3D printed masks. Here's where I need to burst your bubble. Naomi Wu, an awesomely talented maker in China, who I've talked about in the past, points out on Twitter that it's just not feasible to 3D print N95 masks. As I've discussed in the past, N95 masks are important because they completely seal off your nose and your mouth so that any air you breathe has to be pulled through the filter. If the seal isn't perfect, you're going to be pulling air in through the gaps of the mask, which destroys the entire point. Plastic masks need to be formed to the user's face, which makes 3D printing them way harder than simply sewing them out of cloth, which easily conforms to the face. Yet still we have companies like this one pushing their antimicrobial plastic and claiming that you can use their product to print N95 masks. Makers tried them and found that they were in fact worthless. Yes, you can take a blow dryer to them to try to mold them better to your face, but if you wear them for more than a few minutes, you're going to end up with a lake of sweat pooling at the bottom of your mask because it's made of non-absorbent plastic instead of fabric. It is possible to 3D print other things, including face shields that medical personnel can use to extend the life of their N95 masks. But if you want to make a mask, you should just break out your sewing machine. Luckily, that's exactly what a lot of fashion designers like Christian Siriano are doing right now. Though they can't currently make N95 masks, medical personnel also need surgical masks, so it's still helpful. I wonder why I haven't seen as much groundswell for people to sew masks. And honestly, I think the reason might be that the maker community is maybe a little more interested in cutting edge technology than in OG maker shit like sewing and knitting. And yeah, I suspect that there's something to the fact that we tend to see sewing and knitting as female activities and 3D modeling and printing as male activities, which is why people tend to get more excited about the latter. Just a guess. Whatever the case may be, don't fall for scams like the 3D printed N95 mask that is more cosplay than real. Listen to the scientists studying these things to know what they need and if you can help. If you don't have a 3D printer and you don't have any other way to help, know that you are making a difference by just staying home. Doing nothing helps. You are a hero. Yes, you, eating chips on the sofa and watching YouTube videos. You are doing a great job. Keep it up.